Captain Lee Taman stood on the bridge of the UES Indomitable and watched the most amazing sight he had ever seen. Thousands of alien ships floated in space around Zerion Prime, the capital world of the Galactic Federation. Each ship was more beautiful than the last. The Veltari ships looked like giant crystals that caught starlight and threw it back in rainbow colors. Their hulls were smooth and perfect, without a single scratch or dent. When one of them moved, it seemed to flow through space like water. Next to them, the Nexus ships pulsed with strange life. Their hulls looked like they were breathing. Parts of the ships grew and changed as Taman watched. What looked like veins ran along their sides, glowing with soft light. The most amazing ships belonged to the photonic beings. These ships faded in and out of sight, sometimes solid, sometimes like ghosts. They seemed to be made of pure light and energy. Then there was his ship. The Indomitable was made of steel and other metals welded together. It had thick armor plates bolted to its sides. The hull was scratched and dented from its long journey. Compared to the alien ships, it looked like a rusty old truck parked next to sports cars. "Sir," called out Lieutenant Park Hyejin from her station, "the docking control is asking us to follow the yellow lights to Bay 847. Bay 847? Taman raised an eyebrow. "That sounds like it's pretty far out." "Yes, sir." "It's in the outer ring near the cargo bays," Taman sighed. Even their parking spot showed what the aliens thought of humans. But he had expected this. Earth scientists had warned him that joining the Galactic Federation would not be easy. Humans were new and their technology was different. As the Indomitable moved toward its berth, alien ships moved out of the way, but not because they were being polite. Taman could see alien crew members pressed against their windows, pointing and laughing at the human ship. "Look at that primitive thing." One alien voice came through the comm system before being quickly cut off, but the damage was done. Everyone had heard it. "Sir," Hyejin said quietly, "maybe we should have built something fancier for first contact." "No." Taman shook his head. "This ship got us here safely. That's what matters," but deep down he felt embarrassed. The Indomitable had taken 3 months to reach Zerion Prime. The aliens could probably make the same trip in days, maybe hours. After docking, Taman and Ambassador Park Hyuna took a shuttle to the Federation Council building. The building was huge, made of materials that seemed to glow with their own light. Inside, the walls were covered with art from 1,000 different worlds. The council chamber was even more impressive. Representatives from hundreds of alien species sat in floating chairs arranged in a giant circle. At the center was a platform where new members were introduced. "Distinguished members of the Federation," announced the council speaker, a tall being with silver skin and 3 eyes. "Today we welcome a new species to our alliance. From the small world they call Earth, we present the humans." Ambassador Park Hyuna walked to the center platform. She was a small woman, especially compared to most of the aliens around her, but she held her head high and spoke clearly. "Thank you for accepting humanity into the Galactic Federation. We know we are new to space travel. We know our technology is basic compared to yours. But we bring something valuable, our desire to learn and to help." A sound filled the chamber. At first, Taman thought it was applause. Then he realized the aliens were laughing. High Executor Vexithera of the Veltari Empire stood up. His crystal body caught the light and threw sparkles across the room. "How charming," he said, his voice like wind chimes. "They still use solid matter for their ships. And what do they call those crude weapons? Nuclear missiles? How wonderfully retro." Bionode Prime Korvac of the Nexus Collective joined in. His voice sounded like it came from a dozen throats at once. "Their ships cannot even heal themselves when damaged. They must actually repair them by hand, like building with stone and wood." But the worst came from Lumina Essence Zeref of the Photonic Dominion. The being of pure energy floated above its chair and spoke with a voice like music. "They burn chemicals for power. They shoot solid projectiles as weapons. It is like watching children play with sticks and stones." To prove the point, Zeref phased right through the solid wall of the council chamber and back again. The message was clear. While humans were stuck with crude matter, the photonic beings had evolved beyond such limitations. The laughter grew louder. Taman felt his face turn red with shame and anger. These aliens were treating humans like some primitive joke. Ambassador Park Hyuna waited for the laughter to die down. When she spoke again, her voice was steady. "We understand that our technology is different. We ask only for the chance to prove that different does not mean useless. Of course, said the council speaker, still chuckling. Humanity is granted membership in the Federation. You will be given territories in the Outer Rim to develop. Perhaps in a few thousand years, you will catch up to the rest of us. More laughter filled the chamber. After the ceremony, Taman and Huna walked back to their shuttle in silence. Around them, alien beings whispered and pointed. Some even took pictures as if humans were some kind of rare animal. That could have gone better, Huna said finally. They think we're primitives, Taman replied. Maybe they're right. Our best ship probably couldn't beat their worst fighter. Maybe, Huna said. But they made one mistake. What's that? They think primitive means weak. Back on Earth, we learned something important from our history. Sometimes the simple way is the better way. Sometimes the old way is the way that works when everything else fails. As they reached their shuttle, Taman looked back at the Federation Council building. Inside, the most advanced beings in the galaxy were probably still laughing about the primitive humans and their crude metal ships. They had no idea that they had just made humanity very motivated to prove them wrong. The Indomitable left Azerion Prime the next day, carrying news of humanity's acceptance into the Federation, but it also carried something else. The memory of alien laughter and the burning desire to show the galaxy what humans could really do. Behind them, the alien fleets continued their elegant dances through space, beautiful and perfect and completely confident that nothing could challenge their superiority. They would learn how wrong they were. 3 months had passed since humanity joined the Galactic Federation, and the jokes had not stopped. Across the galaxy, alien species shared memes and videos about human ships. The most popular one showed a human vessel next to a Veltari crystal ship with the caption, "One of these is a starship. The other is a flying junkyard." Admiral Kim Do-hyun did not find it funny. He stood in the command center of Terra Station, humanity's first major space facility beyond Earth's solar system. Through the massive viewing windows, he could see human ships coming and going. To alien eyes, they looked crude and simple. But Kim knew better. "Admiral," called Commander Yujisu from her workstation, "the Federation Council has approved our request for trade routes through the Kepler sector." Kim nodded. The Kepler sector was dangerous space full of pirates and contested territories. Most Federation members avoided it. But that was exactly why humans wanted to go there. "Any conditions?" Kim asked. "Just the usual warnings about primitive ships and the dangers of contested space. Oh, and High Executive Vex Thera sent a personal message saying he hopes our quaint metal boxes don't get recycled by the pirates." Kim's jaw tightened. 3 months of insults were getting old, but he kept his voice calm. "Send a reply thanking him for his concern. Tell him human ships are tougher than they look." While Kim dealt with politics, Chief Engineer Choi Minhyo was busy in the construction yards that orbited Earth. She moved between work platforms where human workers were building new ships. To any alien spy watching, it would look like simple construction using basic materials. They would be very wrong. "How are the new armor plates coming along?" Minya asked Engineer Song Wanho. "Better than expected," Song replied, running his hand over what looked like ordinary steel. "The new composite design can take 3 times more damage than our old armor, but it still looks like basic metal plating." "Good. What about the weapon systems? All kinetic projectiles and chemical explosives just like the aliens expect. But the new targeting computers and railgun technology will surprise anyone who thinks we're primitive." Minhya smiled. Let the aliens think humans were using simple bullets and basic missiles. They would learn the truth soon enough. Dr. Yang Ji-hoon was also working hard, but his work was different. In secret laboratories on Luna Base, he studied every piece of alien technology that humans could get their hands on. The Federation had given humanity access to their databases, thinking humans were too primitive to understand advanced science. They were wrong about that too. "Doctor," his assistant Lee Suman called out, "I think I found something important in the Nexus bioship data." Yang hurried over to her workstation. On the screen was a detailed scan of a Nexus vessel's hull. The bioships could heal themselves when damaged, growing new parts to replace destroyed sections. It was amazing technology, but Yang had found its weakness. "Look at this energy pattern," Suman pointed to the display. "When the ship heals itself, it draws power from all its other systems. For about 30 seconds, it's completely defenseless." "Excellent work," Yang said. "File this under Project Achilles. The aliens may think they're perfect, but everything has a weakness." While humanity quietly prepared, Alien pirates in the Kepler sector were getting ready for some easy targets. Captain Zexamar of the raider ship Bloodclaw had heard that primitive human merchants would soon be traveling through his territory. Humans, he laughed to his crew of various alien species. They use solid projectile weapons and chemical explosives. My grandmother's first ship had better technology. His crew laughed along. Taking human ships would be like taking candy from children. The first human merchant convoy entered the Kepler sector 2 weeks later. 3 cargo ships escorted by a single patrol vessel, the UES Terra's Wrath, commanded by Captain COG-1. Alien intelligence services monitored the convoy with amusement. The human ships moved slowly through space, their basic sensors sweeping back and forth like primitive radar, perfect targets for pirate attack. Zexmar's Bloodclaw and 2 other pirate ships moved in for the kill. The human patrol ship was small and looked harmless. Its hull was covered in ugly armor plates and basic weapon mounts. No shields, no advanced defense systems. Human vessel, Zexmar broadcast on standard frequencies. Surrender your cargo and we might let you live. Captain G1's reply was simple. No, Zexmar couldn't believe it. 3 pirate ships against 1 primitive human patrol boat and they refused to surrender. Attack! He ordered. The pirate ships opened fire with energy weapons that could slice through most Federation vessels. Beams of deadly light struck the human ship's hull, expecting to cut right through the primitive armor. The beams bounced off. What? Zexmar stared at his displays. How is that possible? His weapons officer checked the readings. Sir, their armor is reflecting our energy weapons somehow. It's like shooting light at a mirror, then use projectile weapons. The pirates switched to kinetic rounds, solid projectiles fired at high speed. These should definitely penetrate simple human armor. The rounds struck the Terra's Wrath and did exactly nothing. The human ship's armor absorbed the impacts without even denting. Impossible, Zexamar whispered. That was when the human ship fired back. What came out of the Terra's Wrath looked like simple projectiles. The pirates' computers identified them as basic kinetic rounds, mixed with primitive chemical explosive warheads. Nothing that should threaten modern pirate vessels with their advanced shields and adaptive armor. The first projectile hit Zexamar's ship and kept going, punching through his shields like they weren't there. The second projectile was one of the human chemical explosives. It detonated inside the Bloodclaw's engine room. The explosion tore the pirate ship apart. Retreat, screamed the captain of the second pirate ship, but it was too late. More human projectiles were already flying through space. Ships that had ruled the Kepler sector for years died in seconds, torn apart by primitive human weapons. Captain G1 watched the last pirate ship explode on her display. All clear, she announced to the merchant convoy. Continue on your course. Captain, her weapons officer Lieutenant Nam Tai-hyun said quietly. Should we tell them how we did it? G1 smiled. Let them figure it out themselves. Sometimes the old ways work better than fancy new technology. News of the pirate attack spread quickly through Federation intelligence networks. 3 experienced pirate ships had been destroyed by a single human patrol vessel using primitive weapons. The official reports called it lucky shooting and favorable circumstances. But some aliens were starting to ask questions. Bionode Prime Korvac reviewed the battle data in his organic command center. The readings made no sense. Human projectiles had punched through energy shields that should have stopped them easily. Human armor had reflected energy weapons that should have melted it. How? Korvac asked his bioship's computer mind. Analysis incomplete, the ship replied in its multi-voice whisper. Human technology appears more sophisticated than initial assessment suggested. High Executor Vexithara was having similar doubts. In his crystal palace orbiting the Veltari homeworld, he studied reports of more pirate defeats. Human merchant ships were traveling through the most dangerous parts of space and arriving safely at their destinations. Perhaps, Vexithara said to his crystal advisors, we should take another look at these humans. But most of the galaxy still laughed. Humans were lucky primitives, nothing more. Their crude metal ships were still jokes compared to proper Federation technology. On Terra Station, Admiral Kim smiled as he read the intelligence reports. Let the aliens keep thinking humans were primitive. Let them keep laughing at human ships. Soon they would learn that sometimes the galaxy's biggest joke could become its most dangerous surprise. The counterattack began 3 days after the victory at Sigma 7. Admiral Kim Do-yun stood in the command center of the massive human dreadnought Earth's Hammer, watching the largest fleet in galactic history prepare for war. But this time, everything was different. The sleek alien vessels that had once mocked human ships now followed them into battle. Feltari crystal ships took positions behind human cruisers. Nexus biovessels stayed close to human destroyers. Even the proud photonic beings coordinated their attacks with human tactical plans. "Admiral," Commander Yu Jisoo reported, "all fleets report ready for hyperspace jump." Kim nodded. "Signal all vessels. This is Admiral Kim Do-yun of the Human Space Force. I am assuming operational command of this combined fleet. We are going to hit the swarm hard and fast, using human tactics and Federation support. Today we take the fight to them." The response from alien commanders was immediate and respectful. No one argued about primitive humans taking charge. The galaxy had learned that when it came to fighting the swarm, human methods worked best. The first target was the Kepler system, where swarm forces were converting captured ships into more creatures. Captain Han Junsu led a squadron of human destroyers straight into the heart of enemy territory. "Contact ahead," reported his sensor officer. "Looks like they're using converted Federation vessels as guard ships." Han studied the tactical display. The swarm had taken a beautiful Veltari cruiser and twisted it into something horrible. Dark growths covered its crystal hull. Where elegant weapon ports once gleamed, now crude energy drains jutted out like tumors. "Poor ship," Han muttered. Then he opened fire. Human kinetic rounds tore through the converted vessel's hull. The swarm creature piloting it tried to drain power from Han's destroyer, but found nothing it could steal. Human fusion reactors were too simple and well shielded for swarm energy parasites to affect. "Target destroyed," Han's weapons officer reported. "Moving to next contact." Behind the human attack ships, Veltari Admiral Kextara watched in amazement. "They show no hesitation," he told his bridge crew. "They see corrupted Federation vessels and destroy them without pause. No mercy, no doubt." His crystal advisor shimmered with worry. "Perhaps they are too ruthless, Admiral. Those were once our ships." "No," Kextara replied, watching human vessels methodically destroy every swarm creature they found. "They understand something we forgot. In war, hesitation kills. Better to destroy corrupted ships than let them spread the infection." The human advance continued deeper into swarm territory. Dr. Yang Jihoon's research had revealed critical weaknesses in swarm biology, and human forces exploited every one of them. Captain John Minje commanded the heavy cruiser Earth's Vengeance, leading an assault on a swarm breeding facility. The massive structure had once been a Federation research station. Now it pulsed with dark life, producing new swarm creatures every hour. "Bioweapons ready?" Minje asked his science officer. "Yes, sir. Dr. Yang's formula should disrupt their reproduction cycle completely." The human weapons weren't just kinetic rounds and nuclear warheads anymore. Using captured swarm genetics, human scientists had created biological agents specifically designed to kill swarm organisms. It was the kind of dirty, practical warfare that the galaxy's advanced civilizations had abandoned centuries ago. It was exactly what was needed. Chemical warheads struck the breeding facility and released clouds of engineered toxins. Within minutes, the entire structure was dying. Swarm creatures that had seemed unstoppable began dissolving into black sludge. "Target neutralized," Minje reported. "Moving to secondary objectives." Bionode Prime Korvac monitored the attack from his flagship. His bioship's computer minds analyzed every aspect of human tactics. "They fight without honor," one mind whispered. "They use poison and disease as weapons." "They fight to win," another mind replied. "Honor is meaningless if your species dies." Korvac pondered this. His people had spent millions of years perfecting elegant biotechnology. They created beautiful living ships that could heal and adapt. But when the swarm came, all that elegance had been useless. The humans built crude metal boxes filled with simple weapons. But those crude boxes were winning the war. The largest battle came at the Nexus, where the swarm had established their main base. The ancient space station had been converted into a massive hive, spawning creatures that darkened the space around it for light years. "All human vessels," Admiral Kim broadcast, "prepare for final assault. We're going to hit them with everything we have." What followed was the most devastating display of firepower the galaxy had ever seen. Human dreadnoughts opened fire with weapons that made no pretense of being sophisticated. Nuclear missiles by the thousands streaked toward the swarm hive. Kinetic bombardment rounds the size of buildings smashed into enemy positions. But the most terrifying sight was the tactical nuclear strikes inside the hive itself. Captain Park Young-soo piloted his heavy bomber. Souls fired deep into the swarm structure. Enemy creatures swarmed around his ship trying to tear it apart. His hull glowed red-hot from weapons fire, but the thick armor held. "Payload ready," his weapons officer announced. "Do it." The nuclear warhead detonated in the heart of the swarm hive. A miniature sun bloomed in space, consuming everything around it. The blast was so bright that ships hundreds of kilometers away had to shield their sensors. When the light faded, a quarter of the hive was gone. "Again," Admiral Kim ordered. "Hit them again." More human bombers dove into the burning structure. More nuclear suns exploded in space. The galaxy's most advanced species watched in awe and terror as humans systematically turned the swarm's greatest stronghold into radioactive debris. High Executor Vexathara contacted Admiral Kim directly. His crystal form flickered with confusion and fear. "Admiral, your species? The level of destruction you are causing. It is beyond anything we thought possible." Kim's reply was calm and matter-of-fact. "We don't fight wars to look civilized. We fight them to win. If that scares you, good. It should scare the swarm more." The final assault lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the great swarm hive was nothing but burning wreckage floating in space. Millions of creatures that had threatened the galaxy were dead, killed by weapons the Federation had dismissed as primitive. Lumina Essence Zareth, the photonic representative, flickered with subdued light as she surveyed the destruction. "We evolved beyond such crude methods of warfare," she said to her fellow energy beings. "We thought ourselves above such unbrutality. And where did that get us?" replied another photonic. "When the swarm came, our elegance meant nothing. Only human brutality could save us. The counterattack had worked. Swarm forces across the galaxy were in retreat, their breeding facilities destroyed, their converted ships turned to scrap. The immediate threat was over, but the real victory was something else entirely." On his flagship, Admiral Kim watched Federation vessels take up escort positions around human ships. The same aliens who had laughed at crude human technology now sought protection from those same crude vessels. "Sir," Commander Yu reported, "the Veltari Empire is requesting human military advisors. The Nexus Collective wants to study our weapons technology. Even the Photonic Dominion is asking about our defense systems." Kim smiled. "Tell them we'll be happy to help. But make sure they understand our way of fighting isn't pretty. It's not elegant or sophisticated. But when something wants to destroy your civilization, pretty doesn't matter." The galaxy had learned a hard lesson. When survival was at stake, function mattered more than form. Sometimes the old ways were the best ways, and sometimes the species everyone laughed at turned out to be exactly what everyone needed. The human ships that had once been jokes were now the Federation's greatest weapon. Their crude metal hulls and simple weapons had saved the galaxy. No one was laughing at humans anymore. 1 year after the Swarm War ended, Admiral Bae Young-ho stood on the bridge of the UES Triumph in the ruins of what had once been the Swarm's greatest hive. Around his flagship, the combined fleets of the galaxy worked together to clear the debris and build something new. The sight would have amazed anyone who had witnessed humanity's first arrival at Zerion Prime. Elegant Veltari crystal ships worked alongside crude human vessels. Nexus bioships coordinated with human destroyers. Photonic energy beings helped human engineers plan defensive positions. The galaxy had changed. Humanity had changed it. "Admiral," Commander Lee Soo-young reported from her station, "President Yoon is ready to address the reformed Galactic Council." Bae nodded and activated the communication system. On the main screen, the familiar chamber of the Galactic Council appeared. But everything was different now. The floating chairs were arranged differently, with human representatives holding positions of honor near the center. The same chamber that had once echoed with laughter at human expense now listened with respectful silence. President Yoon Mirai stood at the central platform where Ambassador Park Hyuna had once faced alien mockery, but the woman addressing the council now commanded the respect of every species in the galaxy. "Fellow members of the Federation," she began, her voice carrying to every world in known space. "We gather today not as separate species competing for dominance, but as allies who have survived the greatest threat our galaxy has ever known. The audience listened without interruption. No one laughed. No one made jokes about primitive humans. When the Void Swarm returned, Yoon continued, many of our most advanced civilizations found their technology inadequate. Energy weapons failed. Adaptive systems were corrupted. Elegant solutions proved useless against an enemy that understood only destruction. High Executor Vexithera, his crystal form now bearing scars from swarm encounters, nodded in agreement. His proud crystal fleets had been saved by human intervention. The memory still humbled him, but humanity succeeded where others failed, Yoon said. Not because we were advanced, but because we were practical. We built our ships to survive, not to impress. We designed our weapons to kill, not to demonstrate sophistication. Bionode Prime Korvac shifted in his organic chair. His beautiful bioships had been among the first to fall to swarm conversion. Only human tactics and weapons had freed his people from that nightmare. Today, Yoon announced, we established new protocols for Federation defense. The human defense doctrine will become standard for all member species. Our shipbuilding techniques, our weapons technology, and our tactical methods are now available to all who wish to learn. The response was immediate and unanimous. Every species in the council voted to accept human military leadership. The primitives had become the teachers. On New Terra Station, the massive fortress that now served as the Federation's military headquarters, Chief Engineer Choi Minha watched alien delegations tour human construction yards. Beings who had once mocked human, crude metal boxes now studied every detail of human ship design. Engineer Choi, called Veltari Shipwright Kexvalen, his crystal form sparkling with excitement. We must understand how your armor plating achieves such durability without adaptive systems. Mina smiled patiently. She had been explaining human engineering principles for months now. It's simple, she said. We make it thick enough to stop anything that hits it. No computers, no adaptation, no complexity. Just solid protection. But surely there is some hidden sophistication, Kexvalen pressed. Some secret technology? The secret, Mina replied, is that there is no secret. We build things to work, not to be clever. Sometimes the obvious solution is the right solution. The concept still puzzled many aliens. After millions of years of technological evolution, they had forgotten that simple could be better than complex. Human engineers were teaching them to remember. Dr. Yang Jihoon, now director of Galactic Defense Research, met with scientific delegations from across the Federation. His laboratories on Luna Base had become the most important research facility in known space. Dr. Yang asked a Nexus bioscientist, how did you develop weapons effective against swarm adaptation? We studied how they worked, Yang replied, then found ways to exploit their weaknesses. Their technology was advanced, but all advanced technology has vulnerabilities. We just use simple chemistry and physics to target those vulnerabilities. But the biological weapons you created were considered primitive by our standards, Yang shrugged. Primitive or not, they worked. The swarm is dead and we're alive. That's all that matters. The alien scientist pondered this. Like many of his species, he was learning that effectiveness mattered more than elegance. Captain Lee Taman, now Admiral Lee, walked through the corridors of his new command ship, the UES Determination. The vessel was larger and more powerful than the old Indomitable. But it followed the same design principles, thick armor, simple systems, and weapons built to destroy rather than impress. Admiral, his aide Lieutenant Kim Ji-young reported, the photonic delegation has requested another demonstration of our defense systems. Lee sighed. The energy beings were still having trouble understanding how solid matter could be superior to their phase-shifting technology. Set up the test range. Show them how kinetic barriers work against energy attacks. As he spoke, Lee remembered the first time he had docked at Zarian Prime. The alien ships that had seemed so magnificent then now looked fragile to his trained eye. Beautiful, yes, but not built for war. Human ships were not beautiful. They were scarred and ugly, covered in armor plating and bristling with crude weapons, but they were alive and their crews were alive, and that was what mattered. In the outer rim territories that humanity had once been assigned as a joke, human colonies thrived under the protection of the Federation's new defense doctrine. The trading routes that aliens had considered too dangerous were now safe passages guarded by human patrol fleets. Captain Seo Ji-won, veteran of the first encounters with Kepler sector pirates, commanded the patrol squadron responsible for protecting the main shipping lanes. Her ship, the Terra's Wrath, had become famous throughout the galaxy as the vessel that first proved human superiority in combat. "Captain," her communications officer reported, "we're receiving a distress call from a Veltari merchant convoy. They're under attack by raiders near the Vega system. Set course for Vega," G1 ordered. Maximum speed. As her squadron jumped to hyperspace, G1 reflected on how much had changed. A year ago, human ships had been relegated to the safest, most worthless routes in the galaxy. Now they patrolled everywhere, protecting all Federation members with equal dedication. The raiders at Vega never had a chance. Human tactics, refined during the Swarm War, made quick work of pirates who still thought in terms of elegant dueling and sophisticated technology. When the brief battle ended, the rescued Veltari merchants transmitted their gratitude to the human patrol ships. "Thank you for saving us," the merchant captain said, his crystal form flickering with relief. "Your ships may not be beautiful, but they are the most welcome sight in the galaxy." Back on Earth, children learned new lessons in their history classes. The story of humanity's rise from galactic joke to galactic protector became required reading. But the most important lesson was simpler than any grand narrative. "Remember," teachers told their students, "it doesn't matter what others think of you. It doesn't matter if they laugh at you or call you primitive. What matters is whether you can do what needs to be done when the time comes." The galaxy had learned that same lesson the hard way. In the council chambers of Zerion Prime, a new motto had been inscribed above the speaker's platform. It was written in human script, translated into every Federation language: function over form, victory over pride. The elegant alien civilizations had learned to value human practicality over their own sophistication. The species that had once mocked human metal boxes now slept safely because those same crude vessels patrolled the darkness. Between the stars, Admiral Bei Youngho stood on his bridge and watched human ships escort alien merchants through space that had once been forbidden to primitive vessels. The sight filled him with quiet pride. Humanity had not become like the aliens. They had not abandoned their crude metal ships or their simple weapons. Instead, the galaxy had learned to appreciate what humans had always known: that survival mattered more than style, and that the ugliest ship in space was beautiful if it brought its crew home safe. The laughter had stopped. The mockery had ended. In their place was something far more valuable: respect earned through blood and fire, and the knowledge that when darkness threatened the galaxy again, humanity would be ready. The primitives had become the guardians, and the galaxy was safer for it. The warning came from the edge of the galaxy at exactly 0347 Federation Standard Time. A damaged Veltari scout ship tumbled out of hyperspace near Zerion Prime, its beautiful crystal hull cracked and bleeding energy into space. "Emergency broadcast to all Federation forces," the dying pilot gasped over the comm system. "The Void Swarm has returned. They're coming. They're coming for everyone." Then the scout ship exploded. Fleet Admiral Bei Youngho was drinking coffee in his quarters on Terra Station when the alert came through. The Void Swarm. Every Federation citizen knew that name from their history books. 10 million years ago, they had nearly destroyed all life in the galaxy before mysteriously disappearing. Now they were back. Within hours, reports flooded in from across the galaxy. The swarm moved like a dark tide through space, consuming everything in their path. Veltari crystal ships shattered like glass under their assault. Nexus bio-vessels were infected and converted into swarm creatures. Even the mighty photonic beings found their energy forms being drained and corrupted. The Federation's most advanced fleets were being destroyed. Emergency. Council session was called on Zerion Prime. Representatives from every major species gathered in the great chamber. But now there was no laughter. Fear filled the room like poison gas. "We need every ship," announced the council speaker, his 3 eyes wide with panic. "Every vessel capable of hyperspace travel must report to Rally Point Sigma 7. The swarm cannot be allowed to reach the core worlds." High Executor Vexithera stood up, his crystal body dim with worry. "My fleets have lost 60% of their strength. Our weapons cannot penetrate swarm armor. Our shields cannot stop their energy drain." Bio-Node Prime Korvac's voice trembled as he spoke through his dozen mouths. "The swarm converts our bioships into their own creatures. They use our own technology against us. We are defenseless. Even proud luminescent Zareth seemed less bright than usual. They absorb energy directly. When we phase shift to avoid them, they simply follow us into energy space. Nowhere is safe. Then came the message no one wanted to hear. This is Admiral Kim Do-hyun of the Human Space Force. We are responding to the emergency call. All human vessels are moving to support Federation forces. Silence filled the chamber. Everyone remembered the humans, the primitive species with their crude metal ships and simple weapons. What could they possibly do against an enemy that was destroying the galaxy's most advanced civilizations? With respect, Vexithara said carefully, perhaps human ships should remain in defensive positions around their home systems. This enemy may be too dangerous for less advanced vessels. Kim's reply came through the comm system loud and clear. Thank you for your concern. But humans don't hide when there's fighting to be done. At Rally Point Sigma 7, the largest military gathering in galactic history was falling apart. Sleek alien warships limped through space, their hulls cracked and systems failing. Medical ships worked overtime to save crews from vessels that had barely escaped swarm attacks. Then the humans arrived, the UES Retribution, commanded by Captain Lim Sung-min, emerged from hyperspace at the head of a human battle fleet. Compared to the elegant alien vessels around them, the human ships looked like flying scrapyards. Their hulls were dark and ugly, covered in thick armor plates and crude weapon mounts. Human vessels, called out Veltari Admiral Kextara. Please take defensive positions in the rear. Your ships are not equipped for this level of combat. Negative, Sung-min replied. We're taking point. Before anyone could argue, swarm contacts appeared on long-range sensors. Thousands of dark shapes moving through space like a black tide. The Void Swarm had found them. All ships prepare for combat, Admiral Kexitara ordered. Energy weapons to maximum, shields at full power. The swarm hit the Federation fleet like a hammer. Dark creatures the size of battleships tore through space, their bodies crackling with stolen energy. They moved fast and struck hard, overwhelming ship after ship with pure violence. The beautiful Veltari vessels fought bravely, but their crystal hulls shattered under swarm assault. Nexus bioships tried to adapt, but the swarm infected them faster than they could change. Photonic vessels phased in and out of reality, but the swarm followed them everywhere. In minutes, half the Federation fleet was gone. All ships retreat, Kextara ordered. We cannot hold them. That's when Captain Sungmin's voice cut through the chaos. Federation vessels fall back. Human ships advance and engage. The alien commanders couldn't believe what they were seeing. As their advanced fleets retreated in panic, the crude human vessels moved forward into the heart of the swarm assault. The first swarm creature to hit the Retribution struck with enough force to crack a moon. Energy weapons that had destroyed Veltari crystal ships washed over the human vessel's hull. The Retribution kept coming. Impossible, whispered Kextara. How are they surviving? Commander Nosora, tactical officer on the Retribution, had the answer. Their energy weapons can't drain our power systems, she told Captain Sungmin. Our fusion reactors are too simple and crude for them to hack or absorb from. And their claws? Sungmin asked as a swarm creature tried to tear through their hull. Armor plating is holding. Turns out thick metal works better than fancy shields when something tries to rip you apart with pure physical force. The human ships opened fire. What came out of their weapons looked primitive to alien eyes. Simple projectiles and chemical explosives. But when those crude weapons hit swarm creatures, the results were devastating. Kinetic rounds punched through swarm armor that had deflected the Federation's most advanced energy weapons. Nuclear warheads detonated inside swarm bodies, creating tiny suns that burned the creatures from within. How? Kextara demanded. How are primitive weapons working when ours failed? Dr. Yang Ji-hoon, monitoring the battle from Terra Station, had spent months studying swarm remains. Their armor adapts to energy-based attacks, he explained to Admiral Bay. But it can't adapt fast enough to simple kinetic force, and they absorb energy to power their systems, which makes nuclear explosions inside their bodies especially effective. The tide of battle began to turn. Human destroyers punched through swarm formations like hammers through glass. Human cruisers stood their ground against creatures that had sent alien dreadnoughts running. The crude metal ships that the galaxy had mocked were systematically destroying an enemy that had terrified advanced civilizations for millions of years. Federation fleet, Xiongmin broadcast. The path is clear. Resume your attack. Slowly, carefully, the alien vessels moved forward again, but now they followed the human ships instead of leading them. The primitive vessels that had once been parked in the worst docking bays were now spearheading the galaxy's defense. Bionode Prime Korvac watched in amazement as human tactics destroyed swarm creatures that had easily converted his bioships. They do not try to outthink the enemy, he observed. They simply hit it harder than it can adapt to. High Executor Vexathera saw his proud crystal fleets taking shelter behind human vessels. The crude metal ships were protecting the galaxy's most advanced civilization. We thought primitive meant weak, he admitted to his bridge crew. We were wrong. The battle for Sigma 7 lasted 18 hours. When it ended, the immediate swarm threat was broken. Thousands of the creatures floated dead in space, killed by primitive human weapons and tactics. But everyone knew this was just the beginning. The main swarm force was still out there, consuming worlds and growing stronger. Admiral Kim's voice reached every ship in the fleet. All vessels, prepare for counterattack. We're taking this fight to them. For the first time since the swarm returned, the galaxy had hope. The humans, with their crude metal ships and simple weapons, had found a way to fight back. The primitives had become the galaxy's salvation.